Are you doing anything differently, thinking differently, communicating differently, seeing the principles at all since we started? You are 1 out of 35? How many of you a little bit anyway? Because always think in terms of degrees, never either or. And this is all that we can expect. We want to move you from here to here, and I'll talk about this. Now, I mentioned I'm backing up a little bit because I've got an awful lot to cover, and if it were a semester course, I keep telling you, a lot of the jokes and illustrations make them more understandable. And I will go to my office between now and Friday and get at least 5 of the booklets. I've got there were chapters in my big book that I had 1 chapter to go, and I hope to finish it. Plus putting this thing, I never realized there was so much stuff here for education, things for you to do. And it'll be available in the communication library, and I hope that some of you at least will become interested in, as I say, be teachers of communication, be management communication consultant, but very, very important. I think you'll notice how many people who have never studied general semantics, fights, arguments, disagreements, jumping to conclusions, assuming knowledge they don't have. And I will try to cover the 4 basic principles that I consider on effective communication. Last night I had dinner at the assistant dean, kind of secretary assistant dean at UCSD. And she brought over the new chairman of the communication department at UCSD, who interestingly enough, chairman of the communication department is deaf. Interesting. And they're very much interested. And then I met a young lady professor who teaches communication. General semantics is totally new to her. And she may very well, Larry, be here Friday. She wants to sit on the lecture if she can. Good. I hope to get them interested because I gave them a chair also. And they're only, quote, so far interested in theory. But until you apply it, it's of no value, especially when you look around the world and see how many people have misunderstandings, fights, arguments, disagreements. It's got to be on the practical level. So let me give you a definition. I talked about proper evaluation, and I'll go over very quickly signal and symbol reactions. And let me have you write down a proper evaluation is an evaluation. A proper evaluation is an evaluation which leads to behavior which is mature, intelligent, and fitting. F-I-T-T-I-N-G. The evaluation fits the facts or the world of reality. And whenever you use the word reality, put quotes around it. That's one of the safety devices, quotes, by the way. The evaluation fits the facts or the world of reality. And this is what we are basically concerned with. Notice I said we don't use the word thinking because the word thinking implies that you can separate the mind from the body. So we use the non-elementalistic term of evaluation. Non-elementalism, again, is not splitting verbally that which cannot be split empirically. Space and time, heredity and environment, electricity and magnetism. In my work in the sciences, I'm going through the history of science, and that one principle is throughout history, where scholars brought together what they assumed were separate studies, microbiology, psychotherapy, or psychoneurology, if you will, you see. These are called non-elementalistic terms, where you do not separate the things which cannot be separated empirically. All right, that is a proper evaluation, and I will give you many examples of that. Let me give you the definition for a misevaluation. A misevaluation is an evaluation which does not fit the facts. A misevaluation is an evaluation which does not fit the facts or the structure of the world of reality. Remember, I gave you a little indication of the map-territory relationship, and language, to be effective, productive, must work exactly as an accurate map. Its structure must be the same as the structure of the world of reality. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot of problems. And I didn't go into the deeper implications of order. You always use the word structure with order and relations. Relations, that's an important word to overcome the is of identity or the is of predication, that qualities are in the world of reality. Qualities are not only in the world of reality. We create the world of reality. The observer is an important part of the world of reality, as we know, for example, in nuclear physics or quantum mechanics. So a misevaluation is an evaluation which does not fit the facts or the structure of the world of reality and is immature, destructive, etc., leading to, quotes, stupid or immature behavior. Leading toward stupid or immature behavior. And there is behavior which we would call stupid. If you have a misunderstanding, it's stupid, quote stupid, but if you're not taught this, you don't know, to go out and misunderstand somebody when you could have asked them, Joe, John, Jean, what did you mean? You see, I'll give you examples of that the very last day. In fact, as a teacher of general semantics and as a nightclub hypnotist, my two favorite words are ignorance and stupidity. That's why I became a nightclub hypnotist. I saw so much stupidity around me. The very word hypnosis, you mention it to your classmates. Oh, our teacher is Dr. Michael Dean, the hypnotist. Oh, they know all about me. You see, I've been through this for many, many years. Verbally oriented people, which is our normal, natural way of behaving. And I hope that you will be different. Not only that, you see, I could educate, quotes educate, thousands of people a week by showing them non-verbally, getting off of the verbal level that hypnosis is true, that it is a fact. And it's a marvelous tool for many, many things. I've had students like yourselves who are on my show. They say they have a quiz the next day, and they have perfect paper. Now, you have to be scientific in your verbalizations. All I say is that there are many students, or some students, who would improve their grades 1 and sometimes 2 after they were hypnotized. I saw, some of you may have seen in the paper the other day, a lady lost either 84 pounds with hypnosis. Well, when I came to San Diego, October 8th, 1963, they never heard of hypnosis. And now it's being used by doctors and dentists and many, many other people, and that's where it should be, in the hands of the educated, as I use it in success motivation, helping people to live up to their fullest potential. And in athletics, I hypnotized a Denver Broncos punter and told him he'd punt the ball 80 yards. He punted 76 and 74, 1965, in 2 out of 3 punts against the San Diego Chargers. I could tell you other stories where I worked with a lot of athletes, and I never promise anything, and I never charge anything. I've never charged in my life.
I'm just curious, what did you tell these students when they were under hypnosis that made them get better grades?
Okay. That I will tell them to study until 2 or 3, because I've found that if you study until 2 or 3, and this is true not only in exams, but also if you have to memorize for a play, and you think you don't know it, and if you study till 2 or 3 in the morning, you wake up in the morning, and you got it down pat. I don't know if you were that way, but I was that way. You figure, geez, I don't know those lines, or I don't know it. And I also tell them you'll remember everything. You get down to the subconscious mind, basically. That's where your mental and physical powers are. That's all hypnosis is. Relaxing the conscious mind and allowing the subconscious mind to come forward. Now let me give you another definition of general semantics, and then we'll go on to what we have on the board. General semantics is the study of the patterns of evaluation. General semantics is the study of the patterns of evaluation manifested in human behavior. All kinds of human behavior, you see. Whether you're driving your car, if you're a mother, father, executive, teacher, student, very first day of class, all of you had assumptions, right? You see? And I can read those assumptions. I'm inferring, just as I can read people when they come up on stage, the ones who won't be hypnotized. Because of my occupation, I'm a little more aware than the average person. I don't claim to read minds. Actually, I read minds through their faces, bodily postures. As I mentioned before, Augie Boniver used to be the director of training at the University of Chicago's Management Development Seminar, and he used to like to sit in the back. I was the only teacher, he said, who would give them the answers even before they asked the question. And sometimes they didn't even know that they had a question. Well, you become aware. And this is what we teach in success motivation. And I will give some of I've got a 13 cassette series on general semantics, effective communication, and success motivation. And I teach you how to find million-dollar ideas. They're all around us. People are doing it all the time. But we're not taught this. We don't think in terms of earning money or improving ourselves financially, success motivation. And you'll be kind of sorry later on if you're not financially independent, not money as an end in itself. You see, a person is rich if they have good character, not how much money they have in the bank. Because I met a lot of multimillionaires who are real bastards. Men and women, phony society people. Always be yourself. I could talk about that a long time, because these are symbols of conspicuous consumption, conspicuous waste, conspicuous leisure. I could be laying on the beach. I'm working harder now, doing what I enjoy doing, all of this stuff. I don't have that kind of a mentality, and I like to think this is part of why I worked so hard, as you are, in education. And then shifted off into show business, but I never gave up education. It's just too important. Now, I could let the government, and when I die, 55% of my estate will go to the government. I want to give it to San Diego State, UCSD. University of Nevada wants to come in now that I've given it to the other two. And I'm going to help my junior college back home. It won't be a deep study of general semantics, scholarly, but we'll bring in different lectures, educators, and the important thing will be go to college. Because there's a big difference between college-educated people and people who haven't even graduated from high school. Okay, let's go over this real quick, like, if you will. And I sincerely hope that you don't listen to negative people and stop. One of the most important things that I can teach you, that I've learned in my life, the negative people, as I mentioned before, the only thing that you can truly control is your own mind. What gets into your nervous system? You know how many people told me you won't get your doctor's degree? Irving Lee died of cancer. I had 600 pages finished my doctor's dissertation. I knew that I would. I had to give up show business for a year or two and struggle with no money whatsoever. 8x10 room, a little closet. I only had a suit or two. You see, God can forgive your sins, but your nervous system won't. Write that down. God can forgive your sins, but your I have an identification, but that's a different definition of identification. But we all identify. It's not where you started in life, it's where you end up. You want to know what I said? God can forgive your sins, but your nervous system won't. Remember that. And work hard, save money. Don't, oh, I've met so many phonies, and you can read them. One guy in La Jolla had a big, beautiful real estate office, and I knew he was a phony. Sure enough, 3, 4 months later, everything was gone. We read about it all the time. Once at the Riviera Hotel, and I don't gamble. See, this is part of my upbringing. My mother was against gambling. We had guys in the back room playing dice, but God can forgive your sins, but your nervous system won't. Or betting on horses. I go to Las Vegas, and I think I told you, every Sunday, because I love football. I'll go to this particular casino, and I'll watch 8 or 10 football games at the same time at 10 o'clock. 1 o'clock, 4 or 5 more come on. That's my relaxation. But I don't gamble. I'm not going to waste getting up and to make or lose $2 or $4. But the people, they think they're going to hit it big. Thousands and thousands of people. You know how you become successful? You don't take the elevator up to success. You got to walk the stairs one step at a time. Remember that. And don't get discouraged. There will be discouragements in your life. So just keep plugging. Determination. Read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Okay, we got proper evaluation, we got misevaluation, and we have general semantics. Now, Korzybski, when he wrote Science and Sanity, he said, where do you find thinking at its best? And again, usually I'll take more time with a repartee. Korzybski said you find thinking at its best in the sciences. In the sciences. What does the scientist do? He observes the world of reality, and he makes his language, his formula, his mathematics fit the facts, fit the structure of the world of reality. Now, if I asked you, as I usually do, where do we find thinking at its worst? Well, some students will say in politics. Well, thinking at its worst we find among the quotes, and let's put quotes here, among the insane. And what do the quotes insane do? And don't forget, when we use the term insanity or schizophrenic or catatonic or whatever, they're all different. This is just a high-order abstraction which identifies a general group that has behavior more or less the same. And the important thing is always look for differences in people, situations, and things. We tend to stereotype. We tend to lump them all together because our language doesn't point out the differences to be found in the world of reality. So we have to index. Man 1 is not the same as man 2. Teacher 1 is not the same as 2, 3, 4, N. And only man can really see differences in people, situations, and things if you use your cortex. All right, Korzybski said, we're not very sane. That's why he called it Science and Sanity. We're not insane. They haven't caught up with us yet. Korzybski said, you and I are, and I love the term, we are unsane. We have unsane semantic reactions. Now, whenever you hear the word semantic, substitute the word meaning. The semantic reaction is the kind of a reaction you have in all symbolic or language situations. We don't use the word again thinking because we think, quotes, react, organism as a whole in an environment. So that's the non-elementalistic term for our ways of evaluating, thinking, behaving, semantic reaction. And Korzybski said, and what we're trying to do in this course, let's say that you and I were not insane, or many of us are neurotic to a degree. We're not psychotic, lose touch with reality. We're not catatonic. In fact, Murray Banks was at Columbia University when I was there. I remember in one of his records, he said, I know a guy, you go to the mental hospital and you'll see him standing in the corner, like this, let us say. He's been that way for 19 years. But that is the extreme form of insanity. He's the catatonic. And if you go to mental institutions, your heart bleeds for the people because of their particular situation. So what we try to do in general semantics is to move you and me from, let's say, unsane toward the sane or scientific spectrum. And this is a continuum. It's not either or, sanity or insanity. It's a continuum. Here are some examples of the signal reaction. And notice again the reflex action, quick, automatic, trigger-like, not learned or conditioned. It's inborn. But we are concerned with the signal reaction, the reflex-like behavior. And this is the first barrier to effective communication, the signal reaction. Dr. Lee had this at the end of his course. But I have found, I put it at the beginning, because if I can train you or myself to have a symbol reaction, to pause, to delay, to analyze, to use the cortex, then the other misevaluations will not tend to follow. Jumping to conclusions, misunderstandings, assuming more knowledge than we really have. Those are the basic four that I will cover today and Friday very, very quickly. Okay, so the signal reaction, automatic, trigger-like, here's what it looks like. You see something happens in the world of reality, there's a nervous impact, and we immediately talk and or act. We are lowering the human way of behaving to an animalistic way. It's controlled, our behavior is controlled by the external environment. We don't think. And I catch myself at this. If I go out of the hotel room, for example, I did that the other day. And then another time I caught myself. If I don't take this, then go out, use your head, save your feet. But in teaching and in trying to apply general semantics to my own behavior, and especially in driving your car, you're going to be a little more sane. You're going to have less accidents. You're going to have less misunderstandings. You're going to have less confusions. And speaking of executives, I once had an executive for a power company who came to the University of Chicago from Omaha, Nebraska. And he says, I took this course because the biggest problem we have are hiring people, executives, with good judgment. What the hell does judgment mean? And I paused, delayed, analyzed, thought for a while, had a simple reaction. And I said, you'll see after you take this course, it can be defined this way. Good judgment means, number one, you have a simple reaction. You're pausing, delaying, analyzing. Number two, you're not jumping to conclusions. Poor judgment are individuals who jump to conclusions. They don't know the difference between their inferences or assumptions and statements of fact, which I will cover. People with poor judgment assume more knowledge than they really have. And I will teach you, and we all have to realize the limitations of our knowledge. Poor judgment are individuals who project too much into a situation, or who project too much into your words. And the last day I'll give you several different definitions of projection. In other words, what we want you to do so far is to become conscious of our signal reactions. Conscious of our signal reactions. And I will fill in the variables because there will be a lot of other principles that you should be conscious of. A lady in our town, who may be best described as a perpetual talker, was asked by one of her long-suffering neighbors if she ever thought about what she was going to say before saying it. Why, no, said the lady solemnly. How on earth could I know what I think about a thing until I've heard what I have to say on the subject? Well, there are some people who behave like that. Notice animals are conditioned. Pavlov's dog, conditioned with an ED, by the way. Write this down. Conditioned, and underline the last two letters, ED. Conditioned. That's how animals behave. But also write down degrees of conditionality. We're not conditioned with an ED. We can change if the situation changes. When we're driving a car, degrees of conditionality. That's the human response that we control. That's why they train the astronauts in conditionality. They sent up the monkeys up into space, and they died because the situation changed, and they were unable to change with the changing facts. You see what I'm saying? And maybe sometime, Larry, his name is Michael Elkins, I believe, a teacher of general semantics at Texas A&M. And I hope with this particular money we can bring in other people. He has training sessions in general semantics, dealing with a person's stage fright. And I'll send you letters. I cut out his article, and I will send it to you, or I send it to Jim Broza. He gets it to the other members of the faculty. So you can bring in people now and then, those who are interested in going further training in general semantics. And this is what Dr. Lee and I talked about. But he died too young to have a class in training in general semantics. In fact, Irving Lee said in his lectures, if you want training in general semantics, don't go to a university. You go to the Institute of General Semantics. They have a little bit of this training in general semantics. A Houston bus driver was trying to make a turn downtown, but a woman driver, apparently unaware of the bus, was moving into a dangerous position. The driver whistled sharply. The woman stopped and looked, and the driver jockeyed his bus through the opening. Asked by a passenger why he had whistled instead of honking, the driver said, about half the women drivers won't pay any attention to somebody honking, but there ain't a dame in Houston that won't stop and look when she hears a man whistle. Here's one of my favorite ones, an automatic trigger-like reaction. We enlisted men were at bat in a hotly contested baseball game with our officers when a private hit what looked like a single to short right field. Instead of stopping at first, however, he foolishly started a wild dash for second. Realizing then that he couldn't make it, he scrambled back toward first. Now he was being chased in a rundown between the lieutenant playing first and the colonel playing second. It looked like a sure out, but just as the lieutenant flipped the ball back to the colonel, the private snapped to attention, saluting the colonel. Automatically, the colonel snapped a salute back and muffed the catch. Write this down, if you will, please. This is a quotation from George Santayana, the famous philosopher. S-A-N-T-A-Y-A-N-A. S-A-N-T-A-Y-A-N-A. The aim of education is the condition. And underline the word condition, because to me this means a psychological predisposition, a neurological way of behaving. The aim of education is the condition of suspended judgment on everything. Suspended judgment on everything. We know in our normal ways of thinking, we learn something, oh, I know all about that. That's a normal way for people to behave. But there are a few magic words that we should apply. I don't know. People who presume to have knowledge never look for the facts. Learning stops. But with these three words, I don't know, two words dangle on. Let's see. Then learning continues. And I could give you many other examples. The top executives, how they get hunches. Quick judgments are not the wisest. Quick judgments lead to a low degree of probability. And don't forget, you and I only operate in the realm of probability, not certainty. You can never be certain that you understand me or that I understand you, only in terms of probability, as I will cover tomorrow. Hold up, prank, fires cop, he kills his friend. Some guy walks up to his friend and said, "Stick him up." The guy whirls around and shoots him dead. Do you see that in the newspapers? All the time. Insane, we say, hey, the guy was insane. I like this one here. October 30th, I believe, no, March 30th, 1938 was the Orson Welles broadcast. All of you are too young to remember that. Notice here, Orson Welles broadcast, people were so afraid they assumed that the invasion from Mars was real. You see, too many people live, I need a bigger blackboard. They live in terms of real life rather than R-E-A-L, real life. You'd be amazed at how many people's thinking is controlled by their language or semantic environment of movies, radio, and a lot of the situation comedies. Take a look at your situation comedies and see how the plot of the theme of the television program stems from somebody having a signal reaction, jumping to conclusions. That's how you can spot the misevaluation. Write that word down, spot the misevaluation. That's what I want you to do outside of class. See, spot the misevaluation. In other people, it's easy to see it in other people, but more importantly in ourselves, or viewing television. You see, some of these things, Wendell Johnson, in his book, People in Quandaries, tells you what to do outside of class. I have that in here, and that's why I'm going to go ahead and write everything up, and if I don't get a publisher, I'll publish it myself and share it with universities. Probably the most imperturbable man in the United States is Dr. George V. O'Hanlon, appointed by former Mayor Frank Hague, director of Jersey City's Medical Center. When Orson Welles made his scare broadcast, a student nurse who had tuned in during the middle of the program and had not heard the explanatory introduction became hysterical. She ran screaming to Miss Murdoch, superintendent of nurses. "The men from Mars have landed, Miss Murdoch. It's fearful. They're killing everybody, and they're approaching Jersey City." Miss Murdoch switched on her radio, and only 1 minute of the carnage was enough for her. She called in Dr. O'Hanlon. "The men from Mars landed near Princeton. Some of them reached New York, and it is totally destroyed. What shall we do, doctor? Order out the ambulances, doctors and nurses? It's fearful. We may all die." There was a moment's pause, and then the dry voice of Dr. O'Hanlon came precisely over the wire. "Let me see, my appointment book is well filled. Tell the men from Mars that I will be able to see them Tuesday morning at 11. One situation, but two different ways of behaving. One other example here, because it illustrates the psychology of momentum. When we have signal reactions and we get mad, and then the madder we get, the more swear words we use, and then we react to the swear words, we get madder, and 2 or 3 people do that. If you listen to what they say in divorces, oh boy, and they end up killing each other. You talk about insane semantic reactions. So as my taxi left New York's Penn Station, the driver slammed on the brakes to avoid a pedestrian who darted into our path. When the driver leaned out the window and hurled a string of uncomplimentary epithets, the pedestrian snarled, "Drop dead." This set my driver off on another round of verbal fireworks, which continued for the next few blocks. "Don't you think you better calm down?" I said finally. "Just think what this is doing to your blood pressure." At this, he turned around with a broad grin. "You got it all wrong, Mac," he said. "You ain't up on your psychology. I got no cause to worry about hypertension. I know how to release my aggression." Well, the trouble is we get madder and madder, and this is called the psychology of momentum. Write that down so you're aware of this, the psychology of momentum. Now, let me very quickly give you some conclusions of this principle, because this is the first one relative to the course, the signal reaction. All right? We can now ask the question, so what? Why should we be concerned with this? Okay? Number one, when we behave in terms of signal reactions, we are copying animals in our responses. That's why this is so important. Man is not an animal, but we can copy them, surely. Number one, when we behave in terms of signal reactions, we are copying animals in our responses. And still number one, we are reducing the human level. And if you'll underline the words human level, we are reducing the human level of response to the animal level. And underline the words animal level. We are reducing the human level of response to the animal level. And I have many, many examples of animalistic behavior, how they react automatically, etc. Number two, most, if not all of the misevaluations start with a signal reaction. This is why I put it at the beginning of my course where Dr. Lee had it at the end. If you can just train people in the symbol reaction, the other misevaluations will not tend to follow. Most, if not all of the misevaluations start with a signal reaction. Signal reactions tend to produce misevaluations. Still number two. Signal reactions tend to produce misevaluations, or misevaluations follow from signal reactions. And you're going to see, you're going to compare yourself with your classmates who are totally unfamiliar with this course. How many signal reactions they have, how much they jump to conclusions, unsane semantic behavior, etc., etc. You're going to be much more aware. You're going to be much more scientific. You're going to be much more intelligent. That's what I'm saying. Number three, when we do not orient our lives by symbol reactions, we do not observe the world of reality. When we do not orient our lives by symbol reactions, we do not observe, and underline the word observe, please, the world of reality. And still number three, we tend to have an immature and superficial perspective and understanding of things. See, this is what the scientists must do. Pause, delay, analyze, get down to the world of reality. Know when he's projecting into the world of reality. We tend to have an immature and superficial perspective and understanding of things. And all of you, when you get married, you better not jump to conclusions. Don't think that you're going to change an alcoholic to be a non-alcoholic. It's the most important choice that you can make. So you better take it easy and have time and analysis and have a factual orientation. Very important. All right. Number four, signal reactions lead toward ignorance. Signal reactions lead toward ignorance, and underline the word ignorance, or lack of knowledge about many things. And that's why I'm concerned about the word ignorance. All of us are ignorant in many, many different areas. But stupidity is something else again. When we compound our ignorance with stupidity. Okay, so it leads toward ignorance or lack of knowledge about many things. Now here's the first ethical consideration. Why should we be concerned with the signal reactions? Because, number five, signal reactions not only lead toward misunderstandings, conflicts and confusions. Signal reactions not only lead toward misunderstandings, conflicts, and confusions, but they may lead toward injurious actions against others. Signal reactions not only lead toward misunderstandings, conflicts, and confusions, but they may lead toward injurious actions against others. And in the newspaper, we find many examples of people who had signal reactions, lost their head, and killed somebody else, injured somebody else, injured themselves. Okay, so our tendencies to behave in terms of the signal reactions may hurt others too. And number 6, finally, and then we'll go on very quickly in the next principle, and I've got 5 minutes or 3 minutes for that. Got to get in a lot. Therefore, number 6, therefore signal reactions tend to be anti-time binding. Therefore, signal reactions tend to be anti-time binding. Symbol reactions tend to fulfill man's time-binding functions and potentialities. Signal reactions tend to be anti-time binding. Symbol reactions tend to fulfill man's time-binding functions and potentialities. Now, I'm going to do this. Boy, I've got 3 principles to start. Have I got money in my pocket? Huh? Sounds like keys? Like got keys in my pocket? It sounds the same to me. Huh? Sounds like change?
The other sounds like keys.
Which one?
The pocket, the pants pocket sounds like keys.
Very perceptive. If I push the switch down, will the lights go out? Huh? Okay. Now, have I got money in my pocket?
Don't know.
Anybody say yes? Paper money? Have I got money in my pocket?
Only you would know that.
Only I would know that? You spoke of paper money. I never thought of that.
I'm saying you could have it, you wouldn't know. So it may not speak keys and know like everybody thinks.
Okay. Now, I usually think in terms of coins, paper money. Now, did I have money in my left pocket? You just saw it, right? Could be fake money. Now, if I can take this out for a second, I don't usually walk around with this in my pocket. Now observe. Now can you make a statement of fact that I had money in my pocket? Okay? Can you make a statement of fact that I have money in this pocket? See, I need this. Somebody bought me this because money makes holes in your pocket. You saw me take it out of this pocket. Now can you make a statement of fact that I had money in this pocket? That's a statement of fact, right? All right. Now, let's get back to the light switch. And I've got to go very, very fast, mañana, or Friday. Can you make a statement of fact that if I push the switch down, the lights will go out? I'm not going to give the answer. I'm going to wait till Friday. Well, let me ask you a question. What would your answer have been before we met even the first day? Yeah? Wouldn't you? Because we have never been taught the difference between a statement of fact and a statement involving an inference. And I will go very quickly. And by the way, my little booklets, I don't have them here. Well, this is Understanding Being Understood. Larry, if, especially if you can reprint the article on Irving J. Lee, the Semantic Man. Do you think it's easy enough to get it done? Because here you will see, when he died, I wrote an article where Dr. Lee was the best example of the mythical semantic man we've had. And on Friday, I'm going to go to my office here. I still keep an office here. When I ordered my little booklets, I had to order 3,000 of each in order to get any kind of price. And I still have them for many years. And I'll give you at least 5 copies. I got hundreds of copies as well as in Las Vegas. And there they have the jokes, the illustrations, the conclusions, and they will be in the communication library.
Just mark